Hello. Hello, you lovely adventurer. My name is Simon Jacobs, and well, you've joined me for adventure number 28, I do believe. And what I want to talk about today is what to do if you're having difficulty getting started writing something. I think this is a problem that all, all artistic people, I don't think it's necessarily just about being a songwriter, but all artistic people, I think, have those periods where they stare at a blank page, whatever it is they're hoping to go onto that blank page, isn't going onto that blank page because you're kind of stuck in some kind of rut or some kind of just period where ideas are not coming very easily, and then worry sets in, maybe even panic sets in. You start thinking, oh my goodness, I'm never going to write another song ever again. It's over. I'm spent. I've run out. I've used up all my ideas that I'm ever going to have, and that's it now. So I think we are inclined to go into a bit of a panic, and so I'm here to say don't, and to give a few what I hope might be useful tips on what to do if you're in a bit of a dry period, if you're having difficulty finding that inspiration. And by the way, I have a bit of a problem with the word inspiration. I think it's rare that we are inspired. I think more to the point, it's about generating some ideas that then lead to something that's worthwhile. Inspiration makes it sound like it comes from the heavens into your head, and lights go on and angels sing. I don't think that happens very often. I mean, if it's happened to you, tell me if that's the kind of inspiration you have, because, well, I mean, that's exciting, but I have ideas, inspiration, pushing it. Anyway, what I'd like to do in that case is give you a few tips on what to do if you're in that kind of position of being a bit stuck, and maybe a couple of things not to do, but we'll come to them a bit later. The reason this has come about, by the way, is that I definitely a month or so ago felt that I'd slowed down a little bit, was struggling to think. I couldn't think of what to write about. That's another typical problem. So I was beginning to think, maybe I've been going quite fast, and now I'm just going to go slowly forever now, and that's it. But and then suddenly in the last few weeks, I think I've written 4 new songs. I'm not saying they're all smash hit singles, but at least they're quite pleasing, and they're happening kind of thick and fast, and that's quite exciting. It's a bit of an adrenaline rush. I think I've described it as that before, so it makes me just feel happier generally. Right. So, what would I do if I'm stuck? Okay. One thing I've mentioned before, and I think it's really worthwhile, is to go and find interesting samples that just will inspire you. A sample of anything. It could be a drum pattern. It can be an instrument playing a melody. It can be just a sound of something that inspires you to think, oh, this is what I would sing with that. This is the tune I'd put with that. Oh, that makes me think this, and this. I think it's really helpful. I do use samples to get me kind of, going. And also what they do is they take you out of your normal way of starting. If your normal way of starting something, is to sit down at a keyboard and hit a D major chord, and then suddenly you think, oh God, I'm so tired of D major. Then a sample of something or another is going to help lift you up out of that and take you somewhere different, and might just click and get you started. So that's my number one. Use samples. And don't worry about the fact they're samples or loops. This is just to get you started. It might be that when you've got the song completed, that sample is no longer being used anyway. It's a vehicle to get you going. Okay, a different idea here, but this definitely works for me. I tend to go out for lots of walks, particularly in the last year or so. What with one thing and another, I have been for lots and lots of walks around my local neighbourhood. And what I tend to do is stick my earplugs in and and listen to music. I often listen to something I've just been doing because I'm listening to it critically and thinking, oh, need to play around with that chorus a little bit more, or that vocal isn't sounding great. So I'm constantly listening to music. And I realised the other day when I'd gone out and left my little earphones at home that it was a completely different experience, of course, without those earphones, without the music pumping into my ear. And I recommend it. I think, my second tip would be go for a walk without any music in your ear. And of course, you've got the natural rhythm of your footsteps. If I'm on a long walk and I'm just emptying my mind and putting one foot in front of another, I will naturally start to think of things. I naturally start to think of melodies or even snatches of words that go with the rhythm of my footsteps. And I think that's really helpful. By the time I get home, quite often I've got at least something to go on. Something will have popped into my head, whether it's, as I say, just a tune or a bit of word or whatever, whatever it might be. Go for a walk without filling your head with other music. My third tip, just do something. Now, look, I know that people will say if you're going to be a songwriter, you should commit to it every day, sit down and write a song every day. I mean, I don't know anybody who writes a song every day. I think I'd have some kind of an emotional breakdown, I think, if I did that. But anyway, I don't think I can do that. So I think that's really pushing it. But do something. And basically, if you just sit down, give yourself a bit of space, bit of time, and just start fiddling about and just messing, something is likely to come of it. But you've got to give yourself the opportunity for an idea to come by being in the place where it happens. So by sitting down at your keyboard or with your guitar and just messing about, who knows, something will just pop up, and at least you're there and you're ready to start trying to get something down. So doing something, I think, is a really good idea. Giving yourself some time every day, but as unpressured as possible, I think, is really important. Don't tell yourself that you've got to sit in this room until you've written something, or you're not coming out and you can't have any tea. That is unnecessary pressure. My fourth tip: pick a song. If you're really stuck, pick a song that you really like. Pick somebody else's song and do a cover version, or at least start doing the cover version. Quite often, I might have started, I've done a few of these before, and again, always in those kind of fallow periods, and I start doing it, and it leads to something else. And sometimes the song that I'm doing the cover version of never gets completed. And again, it's kind of a means to an end. But I have done some cover versions. I've never released any. That's something we can come back to on another day. Let me tell you what I've done. I did a cover version of Jolly Coppers on Parade, a song by Randy Newman, on his Little Criminals album. Fantastic, really great song. I tried to do, all of them I would say are of dubious quality, actually. I did a cover version of Sundown by Gordon Lightfoot, very, kind of early 70s Canadian singer-songwriter. He's good, check him out. I did a very odd cover version of Evergreen by Barbra Streisand, and if you've heard me sing, I don't sound like Barbra Streisand, so that was quite weird. But I just suddenly thought, oh, I love this song. And one of the things I think is really good with a cover version is go for something that is unusual. Go for a cover of a song that nobody would be expecting you to cover, a little bit out of your comfort zone. And I think it just keeps you busy, it keeps you engaged with the music, and you're going to learn something from it, come what may. You'll find some weird technique that you've been thinking about, or so definitely worth just staying on top of things by picking a song that you might want to cover and doing some kind of crazy weird cover version. If you try and emulate exactly the track that you're trying to cover, I'm not sure. Well, A, I don't think it's possible, but B, I'm not sure what's the point, really. So you're always going to be wanting to try and bring yourself into that cover version, I think. Anyway, that's my fourth tip about, how to kind of keep going, keep the ideas generating. So if you're feeling like nothing is coming to you, then use somebody else's brilliant ideas. Now, my last two tips are a bit connected, really. One is about go back and find songs that you've rejected, and in that song that you've rejected, I'm sure there's a bit of it that you probably really like, and maybe it just didn't work in the end. But if you were to go back and find the bit that you really like, it might just be a bit of melody, it might be, you know, the verse is better than the chorus is a letdown. Go back and pick a part of that, and try and build a brand new song out of the bit that you do really like. That is something that I would certainly recommend, and I've done that quite a few times. And this leads me on to, I guess, another point, which is, all those things that you've rejected, ideas you've rejected, songs you've rejected, keep them, because when you're having that kind of difficult period, it's a fantastic, source of ideas that that you're kind of familiar with, but it might be quite a long time ago. The more time that's gone past, probably the easier it is to do something with them. But I think it's a really useful thing to do. So go back through the bin, as it were, and just pick out those bits that you do like and think, well, actually, forget the words that you wrote back then. Put it in a different key, different tempo, but that bit's really good. Why don't we just start with that and see if we can build something there? So here's the other thing. I think, linked to this, the point about keeping things is also, I don't know if you do this, but I use my phone to record ideas, ideas that I'm slightly panicky all the time that, by the time I get home, I'll have forgotten it, or by the time I get into the room, where I've got my kit set up, I will have forgotten it. So I'm often babbling some nonsense into my phone, singing some dreadful, dirgy thing into my phone. And it's really, really useful because I can go back then and, listen to all these rather odd clips. I think I've got over 100 of them now in my phone. Virtually every single one of them is me, mumbling away at something. That's another way of really, finding ideas that you've had that made some sense to you at some point. It doesn't matter if now you can't remember the context of it, but that's just like another place to find ideas that might just get you started, that might just kickstart your inspiration. So look, those are my kind of my best tips about what to do when you're staring at the empty page and thinking, I've run out of everything to say. Oh, this isn't a tip really, but this is something I do. Don't tell anyone. But also, I write songs about people I know. I'm a bit careful about this because obviously you don't want to upset and insult people. And my songs, I'm sure, are loving and caring. But as a source of interesting ideas, I do write about my friends. Luckily, I'm sure none of them are watching this, so I can get away with it. And I'm sure they don't listen to the songs either. But they are a rather useful source of inspiration, good ideas. So if you've got interesting friends and, bonkers family, then use it. So that's another idea. That's a seventh idea in my list of 6. And finally, a couple of don'ts. And I think this kind of is obvious. And I think I've almost said them, but don't force it. If you sit down every day and you've given yourself that opportunity to write something and nothing's happening and you're just going round and round and, you're getting a bit kind of irritated and you begin to feel like, the pressure of you haven't written anything for a few weeks or even months, don't force it. I think if you force it, several things will happen. One is you'll probably write something you don't like, or you'll just get very frustrated. And I think actually you'll be making the situation worse. And very closely linked to that is don't get miserable. Don't panic. Don't think, well, that's it. I'm over. It's all gone now. I reached a certain age and it's all finished. I'm just going to pack up and sell everything. Don't do that. Don't do that at all, because I think these ideas come to us, well, not in a nice orderly sequence. You can't say, right, Tuesday's my ideas day. then I'll spend the rest of the week, putting it all together. It doesn't work like that. So don't get miserable, don't panic, don't force it, but give yourself plenty of opportunity so that you're in the right place at the right time when that fabulous idea hits you. I hope that's helpful. I don't think songwriters talk enough about the difficult bits, and I think I'm quite keen to kind of be honest about when things go well and when things don't, and what to do when things don't, and how to kind of have a strategy so you can just kind of keep going without descending into a panic. So that's what we're about today. I hope that's been helpful. Comments always always read and always welcomed by me, certainly. So do get involved, post something, you're very welcome, and subscribe and tell all your friends. And in the meantime, I'll see you very soon for another Adventures in Pop. Thank you very much indeed for watching. Take it easy and take care. Bye bye.